in Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. Oh! Yeah! And this is what's happening. Dogs. People on television.
Who is that guy?
Okay.
Who is that guy? He's having a heart attack.
That's Hassan Piker.
Piker.
Yes, he is also known as Chank's nephew from the
Young
Turks.
No.
He was the #1 Twitch streamer in the world for a while, and maybe still is. Hardcore lefty. Terrible time.
I'm sure he'll be suing us by tomorrow.
Oh, no. Here's the funny thing. That bit was put together by someone to make fun of Trump, and it got adopted and it's going viral.
Oh,
good.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, look at Trump's head bouncing on the screen. I mean, that is a really well put together track. It's so
kind of like that track. I kind of like the bouncing head.
Yes. With that grin, it's like, look at you think that's going to insult him. I mean, that is the trolliest ever.
Well, it's so funny. We were talking to our next guest, who will come up in a little while, about, I think we mentioned this either before the interview or afterwards, but here in LA in 1996, 5-ish, they had to pass legislation because it didn't exist about not eating dogs in LA because a certain ethnic group was capturing stray dogs, and I don't have to mention who they are, from North or South Korea. But they literally had to put on the books no eating of the canines. So depending on where you are and what your cultural situation is, your culture may not have gotten to that point yet that some places in Ohio have now reached. Again, LA being ahead of the curve culturally. We had people eating dogs here in 1995.
Yeah, and it's this is a side note. When I was in Cuba, I know I bring up Cuba from time to time, but I don't usually talk about this.
Yeah, it was a dark time.
We weren't only watching over the Cubans. That was when we invaded Haiti.
Oh, that's
and they
right.
were also on Guantanamo Bay.
That's right.
They were not the camps. They were not the camp I had to care for.
Yeah.
So I didn't have direct involvement with them. But I will say that it was pretty bad. The reports about that camp, nobody wanted to do it. We had at least one female MP. Bad things happened with her.
Whoa.
Anyway, these are people who are suffering very, very badly, and
they have
in that environment. Yeah, I mean, for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah,
but
for decades.
But in that kind of environment, bad things happen. They are a real big struggle. That's all I can say.
I'll just say this, because I've been down there and I've been to the Dominican many times, and on the other side of Hispaniola is Haiti, and they had the Battle of Blood River, separating the two countries. One, mucho Catholico, doing very well, thank you, and the other one with Voodoo, not doing so well as a religion and as a culture. The French obviously pulled up stakes during the slave rebellion of whatever year that was, that the French said we're out of here, and split back to France, leaving them these essentially unacculturated, Africans who they didn't, assimilate into the French culture. They didn't have enough time, actually, and they had to no Catholic religion. It was not enough time, I believe, for the French to inculcate with their religious and other cultural things as they do in France.
Well,
By the way, in France, for you to become a French citizen, you not only have to learn the language, you have to learn how to cook French food. I don't know if people know this. To become the amount of things you have to do to become French is a million times more than simply running across the border here and not assimilating, Eric.
Right. Well, and voodoo's an interesting one too, because I mean that's cultural appropriation in action.
Yeah.
Because they literally took like some African religion roots, and they incorporated Catholicism into it.
Yeah. It's a mumbo jumbo religion, no doubt about it. But in fact, the Tonton Macoute, who were the secret police under both Papa Doc and Baby Doc Duvalier, used voodoo to scare the hell out of the average Haitian. They used it, in other words, voodoo doctors, for instance, would use Chiari to put victims to sleep and then bury them, and they would have an oxygen tube going under the ground, and they would wake up the next day from the Chiari and they had oxygen, and they make it seem like the voodoo doctor had raised the dead. So it was kind of this chicanery to empower themselves as voodoo doctors. The whole thing of Haiti is just a crazy, crazy story of not having a colonial power ruling over you. This is what happens when you don't have completion of a colonial power. You end up like Haiti. All the people, we're here to knock down so many leftist tropes. And one of the leftist tropes is that, colonialization destroyed all these wonderful cultures. It's a crock of shit. And this is a perfect example of that crock of shit is Haiti.
Yeah. For sure.
I don't know how the people of Springfield get out of this, but the dog thing has now sent up a dog whistle, no pun intended, to focus on the plight of these people in Springfield, Ohio, which is not that far from Youngstown, Ohio, demographically and geographically from where Eric and I, when we had the meetup there in Youngstown. It is a Youngstown type situation, a deindustrialization of the culture, a lot of drug abuse, and a lot of unemployment. You dump in 20 to 30,000 Haitians from another planet, and all of a sudden you got some problems there.
I agree. It's not only both the residents and the pets that are concerned. Apparently, Liz Cheney is on the run out there. It's a pretty scary.
That's scary. That's scary. Let me tell you something. When you congratulate or embrace the endorse of Dick Cheney, and you're on the liberal left, I mean, this is so crazy. This would be like Nixon endorsing McGovern or something. I don't understand how. I mean, it's one of those things where you just don't say anything. You just go, all right, whatever. It's like when you have a foreign dictator endorse Trump, you don't embrace it. You just ignore it. Not these people. I mean, they're embracing it like, go Dick Cheney, go war dog.
True. While we're talking about embracing things, and I need to do this early in the show, very fortunately, we got demonetized again last week. Shocking. Yeah. I know it is, everyone. Right. But to help make up for it, we do have a sponsor.
See how this works? I get you now, Hunley.
This is a good one, too. One that you already believe in.
America, listen up. It's no coincidence that we're seeing a surge of new health crises just as critical decisions need to be made. First, a massive COVID-19 spike with 1.2 million new cases reported daily. Then the World Health Organization declares monkeypox a global health emergency. And now we're gearing up for a bird flu summit. It's clear they're setting the stage for more planned pandemics. These aren't just coincidences, they're calculated moves to keep us in fear and control. Were you prepared for the last pandemic? A shocking 48% of Americans don't have any emergency supplies ready, according to the National Center of Disaster Preparedness. We saw how the medical and pharmaceutical industries failed us last time. They left us to fend for ourselves. Do you really want to count on them again? It's time to take control. Get the Contagion emergency kit from the Wellness Company. It's packed with ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, Z-Pak, Tamiflu, budesonide, and nebulizer, the treatments they didn't want you to have. Forget waiting in line or struggling to find a doctor willing to prescribe these life-saving medications. Just a few clicks and this kit is at your door, ready for whatever comes next. Don't let yourself be caught off guard again. Act now and protect your family from the next pandemic. Be proactive, be prepared. Order your Contagion emergency kit today. Visit twc.health/Eric to get your Contagion emergency kit today. Use the promo code AUS at checkout to save $30. Once again, that's twc.health/Eric. Use the code AUS to claim your discount. Remember, these kits are limited and only available in the USA.
Wow.
All right.
Well,
And-
I'll tell you this. I mean, seatbelts, emergency kits, first aid kits, and earthquake preparedness kits. I laughed at all three my entire life, as most of us did. Seatbelts are now part of our lifestyle. We all mocked it if you're old enough when seatbelts were first. No, I'm serious. And then the first aid kit, which people, what do I need a first aid kit? Everyone has one now for the most part in their car or house. And then out here and in other areas, an earthquake prevention kit. We had a 5.1 out of Malibu the other morning, and alarms went off. I almost hit the ceiling here because they have your phones wired into the alert. That's a pre-earthquake alert, a couple of seconds. They may give you 30 to a minute and a half. They're not guaranteeing you much alert, but whatever, it was in Malibu and not right here. That being said, this is the part of the fourth contingent now of emergency kits that we apparently need to have, Eric.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw motorcycle helmets in there too.
Okay, I'm not a biker. Okay, you can throw it in there. I mean, everywhere I go in other states, I see them not wearing helmets.
Right, but people mock them, and then all of a sudden they're decorating. They call them donor sickles for a reason. Sometimes.
Okay, well that's a special niche, but I'm talking about the average
But, yeah.
American family that now has a first aid kit, which we didn't have 20 years ago. A first aid kit, either in the house or in the car.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. Well, no, you say that short now, but I didn't buy into it until fairly recently.
Well, there
myself.
was a time we weren't being prevented.
Right.
We could just go to the drugstore or get whatever, or we could go to the doctor and get a prescription.
Well,
they weren't
that's
going
for
to be
this one. Right.
prevented.
That's for this
people.
one that you're talking about.
Exactly.
Right. Now,
Exactly.
I have this, and you could put other things in there, by the way. I have the full kit, and I've had it for over a year. You can add stuff in there if you want. And the point of the matter is, when the shit hits the fan, good luck going to Target or CVS Pharmacy and trying to get what you need. Good luck.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
All right, so here's we continue with the debate, and then when we were talking with Larry, we also talk about the debate some there. So we're going to look at it now. Did you see the story that Kamala Harris and Lindsey Davis shared?
I'll take it even further. When she refused to meet with Netanyahu, she went to this meeting with Lindsey Davis of her sorority sisters. That was her excuse for not meeting a world leader in the middle of a war. This is why she couldn't meet with Bibi Netanyahu. Remember that.
Hey, last notes for the debate, Mark. I mean, this is important.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a whistleblower who's come out now. I don't know who it is, and we may not have to know who it is, who says that she was given the questions beforehand. And you say, well, that's conspiratorial. Give me a freaking break. I mean, Donna Brazile did the same thing with the Hillary Clinton questions with CNN. I would simply say to...
Oh, by the way, she got hired by ABC.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I would say to ABC, are you worse than CNN? Are you better than CNN? I don't understand. It's not like it's a Fox scandal where they gave the questions to Trump years ago. This is the same exact situation. I don't know about the earrings of being transmitters, but the questions, hey, come on. There's a track record for having this happen with Donna Brazile. And Donna Brazile, people may forget, was the head of the DNC, for crying out loud. This was not a woman in an Oprah lookalike standing as a stand-in in one of Oprah's movies.
And that was Tulsi who, Tulsi's the one who busted her.
Yeah, that's right.
Came out with that information.
That's right. So this is not far-fetched at all. And I hope the whistleblower goes through with their claims. I don't know what you can do about it because go ahead.
Oh, no. You say that, and we keep talking about going in front of Congress, and you're talking about your watchdog group.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Literally, you should be calling the moderators and the ABC president.
Yes, that's part of my...
in front of Congress.
Yeah.
Just because there's no question here.
Yep.
There is the possibility of election interference, which is in fact a crime last time I checked. I mean,
Look, as Eric knows, I've called for this media oversight committee and a media watchdog committee, and I don't want to hear about your First Amendment. You're an engineer, and this isn't going to work because to fill in the blank. We got to start thinking outside the box, people. I know you don't like to do that on the right, that it's uncomfortable, but we need to have oversight of media. In fact, I've called before for a digital media bill of rights. I've called for a media bill of rights where we have to lay out what the rules are for these people and maybe get it ratified by the House and the Senate. There's a lot of ideas regarding this, but something's got to give. We cannot have this continue with the media strangling the rest of us because they're in bed with the Marxist Democrats of the far left. Something's got to change. We can't just keep complaining anymore. They're altering the fabric of the culture. So we got to start thinking outside the box. I don't know if this is going to work, but having a media bill of rights and media oversight in the House and the Senate, and as Eric said, calling these people and putting them under the bright lights of Congress and the Senate and the House and a joint committee under oath is a start. It's a start.
Yeah. And I mean, it goes further because she appeared in an interview with the LA Times, and somebody did the courtesy of pulling these quotes out of it. Davis, wearing pink glasses while speaking to the Times over breakfast at the Ritz-Carlton in Philadelphia, said the decision to attempt to correct the candidates was in response to the June 27th CNN debate between Trump and Biden, whose poor performance led to his exit.
Right.
People were concerned that statements were allowed to just hang and not be disputed by the candidate Biden at the time or the moderators.
Okay, so here's what you say before the event. You just go, we will be fact-checking you in real time, just so you know, both of you. We will be calling you on your bullshit in real time from now on, from the beginning of the debate. As we start the clock, we will stop the clock and call you on your bullshit. Did they say that? No. No. Did they call her on her 21 lies? Absolutely not. So because whatever their thing was, by the way, in that same article, in another article I sent you, they talked about how ABC News rehearsed this debate for over 4 weeks using these moderators in rehearsal. What the hell do you need rehearsal for an improvisational debate? They were rehearsing every single one of the beats in this storyline. That's what they were doing by their own admission.
Okay, and now, I'm not going to let Trump off the hook on this either, though, because one thing that I do miss, I kind of agree with Megyn Kelly was talking about, and she even said that Trump burned her ass in a debate. Normally, Trump will attack the media, and he had every reason and ability to say, I know what you're doing. Why are you doing this now? And I was frustrated. I don't know if you were, and I understand he was one guy against three, but he left a lot of meat on the table. My God, I so often it was very, very frustrating.
I said to this channel numerous occasions, this cackler in chief thing is not going to cut it. She's a very, very polished debater. We had Steve Cooley on. I was mocked repeatedly for saying how sharp she is in a one-on-one debate, not a 17-person debate where you're sniping across enemy lines. I'm talking about one-on-one. And nobody could believe it. And I don't blame you for not believing it. I've been here in California with her for over 25 years. I've seen her in California politics for 25 years. I know who this woman is. The cackler and chief thing is a bullshit distraction. Don't buy into it. This is a devious, smart woman whose both parents had PhDs, and she's not the cackler you think she is. And I think that was proven finally in this debate. The reason he's not having another debate is he doesn't want his bones picked clean like they were in this debate. I mean, he looked like a psycho at points in this thing, Eric. I'm sorry. And I love Trump, but that he was way out of his league in this thing, way out. He looked unprepared at times.
I think he was.
What?
I think he was unprepared.
Yeah, no.
The only really strong part of the debate, was the close, and that was the only thing that
was rehearsed. Yeah,
I believe ahead of time.
Right. So, I mean, this abortion thing goes on for it looked like an hour. This abortion part was going on for, and there were ways for him to get out of this, and he took the bait from her every single time. I mean, saying that people leaving your rallies because they're boring There was no sarcasm. There was zero amount of humor from Trump. A lot of these things could have been humorously thrown off, but apparently they must have tested these things that trigger him, because that thing with the rally, he took the freaking bait and almost went down to Davy Jones's locker, for Christ's sakes. I mean, I've never seen a junkyard dog lock onto something for no reason, eating up his own time.
Well, she was on the ropes with it too. That was
right.
That was literally, I will bet $100 that was her in case of emergency break glass.
Well, she had a few of them.
Get into
that
trouble,
was one of them.
just say the rally. Yeah, but no, that was a really bad one, because they said, why is it 6 months before? They were actually asking a legitimate question.
Yeah.
It was very harmful to her. And guess what? She just went right to that rally, and he never even went back to the immigration, which he had gone to when she didn't answer the first question on the economy, which is so confusing.
Right. Where was his, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Why didn't he just hammer this over her head repeatedly? Mumbling it, yelling it out, calling it out. Why aren't you letting her answer that question? Why did you let her meander about a middle-class lifestyle to that same question? I mean, there's a lot of ways to get that back into the zeitgeist, and he never even brought it up again.
Right. And by the way, folks, I see in the chat, it's like, you're wrong. We must have seen a different debate. Maybe
okay, you saw a different debate. Stop watching the show then, schmuck. What are you listening to us? What are you listening to us for? Go listen to your grandmother. Okay, you saw a different debate? Good luck. Maybe we'll listen to this guest. Let's see what the guest has to say. Some weird dude who may have a different opinion because he's a different guy than us. Listen to this guy for a while. Maybe you could watch him and yell about him for a while.
Let me cue this up and explain to folks how this is breaking down, because we've done different shows different ways, and sometimes we've had to pre-record and we've done a full show. In this case, we wanted to pre-record. We only had a limited amount of time, so we decided we wanted to get the time with Larry Elder while we could, and then we're putting it in the middle of this show. So the show is kind of like a sandwich.
Yeah,
we have the start, we have the Larry Elder interview, and then we have the finish.
Yeah, we're going to come back and we'll talk live to this particular guy, whoever's saying that. But we'll come back after Larry and Eric and I talk to Larry, so it'll be the same show. But Larry's just so people know, Larry's got a radio show at the same time we're on, so we had to pre-record this. That's all.
Exactly. So we will be here.
Hey, look at there's us, Eric. There we are.
There we are.
Their executive producer of the 2020 documentary Uncle Tom, an oral history of the Black conservative. Larry is the recipient of a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I did not know that, Larry.
Hollywood and Vine, bro.
Hollywood and Vine. Wow, you're close to the edge. He hosts a daily national syndicated show for Salem Radio Networks, which he's back on again. Produces YouTube videos in partnership with Epic Times, which I read every week. The hard copy.
I don't do them in partnership with Epic Times anymore. They're just I produce a weekly podcast.
Okay. Yeah. His books include the best-selling The 10 Things You Can't Say in America, Showdown Confronting Bias, Lies, and the Special Interests That Divide America. His latest book, if it is, Dear Father, Dear Son, 2 Lives, 8 Hours.
Latest book is As Goes California, about the race for governor.
As Goes California, the race for governor, which we'll discuss. Right. Larry also writes a nationally syndicated newspaper column distributed through Creators Syndicate. Also hosted 2 nationally syndicated television shows, Moral Court and the Larry Elder Show. I didn't know about Moral Court. What was that one, Larry?
Best court show ever. Better than Judge. And these idiots canceled it. And
oh, my God.
The ratings went through the roof, and we never could revive it. It was the best court show ever.
Wow. He has a BA in political science from Brown University. As does a recent guy we're doing an article series about, who is E. Howard Hunt. Apparently also went to Brown University. Yeah. As you're well aware, Larry.
A little bit before me. You know who else went there for 1 year and got kicked out? Ted Turner.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we had they were called parietals, hours where you could see a girl in your dorm, and he broke it, and he got kicked out.
Wow. Wow. Also had trouble wearing a uniform as an owner in the Braves dugout. But that was a separate issue years later. The law degree is from University of Michigan, Larry. 1977, if that dates you.
That's
I think that's the time I got out of Bard College and went to NYU to get a film degree.
I think Brian Gumbel also went there, didn't he?
To Michigan?
To Bard.
No, I never heard that. But Chevy Chase went to Bard, and a lot of other nefarious characters went to Bard.
Check it out.
Brian Gumbel went to Bard.
I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Fast.
Interesting.
Brian Gumbel wiki.
Yep, I'm looking right now.
Let's use faster. Let's use faster. Let's use faster.
I'm not seeing Bard if I do a search on it.
Bates. I'm sorry. Bates.
Right. Right.
Okay.
All right. It starts with a B.
Right.
Yeah,
Close enough.
One syllable.
Yeah, Bard. Walter Winchell. Walter Winchell once called Bard College the Little Red Whorehouse on the Hudson back in the day. To quote Walter Winchell.
Right.
All right. I wanted to talk about a couple of things, Larry. Number one, the debate. Your take on the debate, just straight up, and just happened. So I wanted to get your early thoughts on it, and we'll just take it from there.
Okay.
Okay. Did Trump step up and perform? No, let's roll. Yeah, we're gonna go, bro. We're gonna go.
All right. Here's the deal, Mark. I'm a lawyer. I was a litigator. I tried cases. I am a trained debater. Everything I thought about how people reacted to debates with this guy, Donald Trump, out the window. I didn't think it was a disaster, but I thought he left so much material on the floor. I mean, the first question out of the gate was, are people better off than they were 4 years ago?
Right.
And the way David Muir asked the question, Mark, was not some sort of smarmy way, like, well, a lot of people say that people aren't better off now. Donald Trump says people say they're not better. Well, how do you respond when you hear people like Donald Trump? He didn't do that.
I know.
He said, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Right over the plate, waist high, and Kamala Harris, of course, didn't answer. How could she answer? Inflation, 40-year high, prices 20% more. The average family of four is spending $1,200 a month for the same goods and services as that family spent 4 years ago. Gas prices 50% higher, rent higher, mortgage higher. What's she gonna say? So she pivoted. Well, I grew up middle class, and I got a plan. Well, first of all, she didn't grow up middle class. Father is a professor at Stanford, teaches economics. Mother is a biochemist. And in that answer, she even mentioned she had a woman who lived with us. We call those nannies. Name a middle-class person who's got a freaking nanny. So she's not even middle class. She has no plan. She had a plan, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So back to Trump. And I tweeted this real time, Mark. I said, Oh my God, the first non-answer, answer. I figured Donald Trump would say something real simple. Well, you see, she didn't answer. Here's why she didn't answer. And then everything I just now said. He didn't do that.
Right.
And there were time after time after time where, in my opinion, he had a chance to just whack the crap out of her and whiffed.
Completely agree.
That does not excuse the non-answer that Kamala Harris gave. But on style, she wins. She was confident. She was energetic. She was fearless. She was well trained, well coached. Didn't answer anything. And again, the number one concern is the economy for people. What are you going to do about it? She didn't answer. So as far as I'm concerned, on substance, she didn't win. But on style, she certainly did. I didn't think it was a disaster. However, debate's over. Reuters does a focus group, 13 undecided voters. At the end of it, 8 of them said they're going to vote for Trump. 2 said they're going to vote for Kamala. New York Times, same thing. Focus group of undecided voters. When it's all over, most of them said they're going to support Trump. I don't know.
That shocked me to see as well. Didn't that surprise you? I was
I can't figure it. And I thought that, again, that it was his worst performance I've seen so far. It wasn't a disaster, but also the way it was shot. I have a camera guy who films my radio show every day, and I mentioned this on the air. He said, "You're the only person I know that said this." I'm not saying anybody else didn't, but Donald Trump was shot from the top down, which made him look smaller. And it emphasized his scowl. She was shot straight on. And the camera guy told me this. And I don't know why they got away with it, but they got away with it. And you notice that every now and then she said something, even though supposedly her mic was supposed to be muted. His was muted. So, and then of course you had the unfairness of the 2 debate moderators. Let's take a look at ABC. Media Research Center did a study. They looked at the 25 political stories that ABC did since Kamala Harris became the nominee. 25. 100% positive, 0% negative. They looked at the stories of Donald Trump, 93% negative, only 7% positive. And of ABC, NBC, and CBS, ABC News was the worst. Overall, 85% of them had positive coverage of Harris and Walz, but ABC News was the worst. And David Muir, the co-debate moderator, is the managing editor, which means he's responsible for the content. Also, among all the three alphabeters, ABC, CBS, and NBC, only ABC has failed to refer to Kamala Harris as a liberal or as a progressive. Are you kidding me? Even CBS and NBC called her that. ABC, as of September 4 anyway, has never referred to her as a liberal or a progressive, even though GovTrack, the polling organization, said in 2019 when Harris was in the Senate that she had the most left-wing record of any senator in the last 2 years, including Bernie Sanders. And that's relevant because in 2020, for a while, after Sanders won the Nevada caucuses, he was a frontrunner.
Yeah.
A self-described Democrat socialist was a frontrunner. They were scared bleepless. That's why James Clyburn of South Carolina, on the eve of the South Carolina primary, comes out and says, I'm going to embrace Joe Biden. Joe Biden wins the primary. He was just meandering, floundering. He wasn't going anywhere until that happened because he was the least offensive of all the other Democrats, and he became the nominee. Now, Kamala Harris, who has a more left-wing record than the guy that they deep-sixed in 2020, is now the standard bearer. You can't make this up.
You can't make this up, Larry. I mean, at least for Bernie Sanders, he drew huge crowds. You can't take that away from him, Larry. Right. And here she is paying and bussing in students from Massachusetts to a rally in New Hampshire. Why can't she draw crowds like a Bernie Sanders did?
She's a bore. She's a crashing bore. She's got no ideas. She's got no real convictions. Other than even more to the left of Bernie Sanders, can't express them in an effective way.
Right.
And I tell you this, I was at the RNC in Milwaukee, and people were giddy. Trump, of course, survived the assassination attempt. The feeling was divine providence is here, and the assumption was Joe Biden was going to be the nominee. He's bumbling, as Donald Trump famously says, can't put two sentences together. And I said to people when they interviewed me, I said, let me tell you something. Joe Biden's not going to be the nominee. If he cannot fog up a mirror, and he can barely do that, it'll be Kamala Harris. And do not underestimate her. I'm from California.
I said the same thing. Yeah.
Watched her career for decades.
Yeah.
She defeated an incumbent DA, her boss, in San Francisco, got reelected. She ran for AG against the DA of LA County, which is a bigger county than the county that she represented in the Bay Area.
Steve Cooley, of course.
She beat him. Yeah. They had the same amount of money. They debated. It was an even debate, and she got reelected. And then she ran for senator, beat up a bunch of other people in the primary. She became the senator. And it's true, she did run for president. She dropped out before the first contest, so her name was never on the ballot. Right. On the ballot for VP with Joe Biden, and she's won. So every time this woman has been on the ballot, she has won. She's never lost. Do not underestimate her, I said. More than that, it's not even about how good she is. It's about what the media is going to do to her. Once she says, I'm the nominee, they're going to transform her into a combination of Joan of Arc and Rosa Parks. And that's exactly what they've done. They've erased all the other bad stuff he's done. I mentioned that this organization, GovTrack, said she had the most left-wing record of any senator in 2019. They removed it from their website. It's gone. You can't even find it.
Yeah.
Gone. Poof.
That night.
George Orwell somewhere going, damn.
Damn. That was quick. Well, let me ask something. Because I had thought it would be Newsom. Did they, when there was the media outcry by Black Democratic women at the beginning of the descent of Biden, did that drive a stake into Newsom and cement her position, or was it her from the beginning?
Hers from the beginning. I'll tell you why. And this is why Newsom never came out and ran. Yeah. I mean, when Joe Biden was stumbling and fumbling, wouldn't you think somebody as ambitious as Newsom would have gotten into the race the way Robert Kennedy Jr. did? I'll tell you why he didn't. The most loyal part of the Democratic base are Black females,
right?
By far. 20% of Black men voted for Donald Trump. Yep. Black females have no kind of interest at all in the Republicans. it's the black females, and they love Kamala Harris. I read a lot of the black media, and there's something called the griot, which is probably the standard of black media. And there was an article about Kamala Harris when she was VP, and it said, "Give a sister, SISTA, a break." That was a headline. And a whole article railing against the sexist, racist people that are mocking her cackle and accusing Joe Biden of giving her thankless tasks like getting to the root causes of illegal immigration when the root cause is Joe Biden. And so they felt that she was given a raw deal, and they were incensed. So if Joe Biden had been drop kicked and then Kamala Harris drop kicked, black women would have been livid.
Yeah.
They would not have been so livid they would have voted Republican. They just
it's like a 90% approval rating, Larry, right? For her among black Democrats.
LA Times had her approval rating among blacks at over 80%. It wasn't broken down by gender, but I assure you it was around 90% by black females.
How does that break down men versus women and among blacks, though?
Well, I think probably 51% of the black population are female, 49% are men. Women probably voted a higher percentage than black men do as well. So all that's a factor. And don't forget, when James Clyburn put his arm around Joe Biden, he extracted a promise that your first nominee be a black female. And when it appeared that Dianne Feinstein might not finish her term, Gavin Newsom said his nominee was going to be a black female. This is the year of black females, and all of a sudden you have one on deck, ready to bat, and you drop kick her for a white dude like Gavin Newsom or Mayor Pete. Are you kidding me? And everything I just now said, believe me, Gavin Newsom knows it, which is why he dare not say anything. The only thing he was going to do is wait, fingers crossed, that when Joe Biden steps aside, Kamala Harris looks at her poll numbers, which at the time were lower, and say to herself, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm gonna run for governor. And I'll pass it over to somebody else. And she was not going to do that. She wanted to be president. She ran. She loved being VP, and she wants to be president. So I knew that wasn't going to happen. I knew that if it wasn't Joe Biden, it was absolutely, positively going to be Kamala Harris. The only caveat would be if another black female, more popular, stepped in. Only two fit the bill. Oprah Winfrey doesn't want the job. Michelle Obama hates politics. Complained about being first lady, complained about being in a fishbowl, tried to talk her husband out of running for U.S. Senate, for crying out loud. Yeah. She doesn't have not have the personality, does not have the temperament. I knew she wasn't going to do it. I knew it would be Kamala Harris.
Well, what happens to Gascon now? Let's get into to Newsom now. Newsom? Yeah, what happens to Newsom? Does he just wait it out till 2028?
Fingers crossed. He hopes that Kamala Harris loses.
Right.
That he can run in 2028.
Right, because Biden kept raising up his hand saying, "This is my heir apparent." Every time he came to California, Larry, he was touting Newsom.
Well, back up, Mark. Here was the deal. Biden was even David Axelrod said during 2020 was Mr. Magooing his campaign. And then all of a sudden he's embraced. The deal was nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I'm going to beat Donald Trump because I'm calmer. Donald Trump is chaotic, and I'm a moderate. People can embrace me. And then once I give it in a respectable period of time, 3 months, 6 months, I'll hand it over to Kamala Harris, and she's off to the races. And then Dr. Jill loved being first lady.
Oh, yeah.
There's something very intoxicating, obviously, about
Yes. What is the deal with that job? Everybody loves it.
All of a sudden, I'm not going anywhere. I'm running for re-election. Okay. Yeah. Oh, well.
Well, okay. So let's look at this. All roads seem to be leading to Pennsylvania, Larry. Yep. The whole planet Earth is now heading towards Pennsylvania in this collision of political worlds here. How does this turn out legitimately as a legitimate election if we still have, registrars in red counties turning in their vote tallies early in the state of Pennsylvania so they could go to bed while Philadelphia is up all night manipulating vote counts?
Well, the good news is that we're aware of the shenanigans to a greater degree than we were 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And even with all the things that happened, including the shenanigans, plus the 51 intelligence officials that signed that letter claiming the Hunter Biden laptop story had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation, Mark Zuckerberg spending $419.5 million of his own money to get out the Democrat turnout, and of course the relentless hostile media against Donald Trump. 90% of the ABC, NBC, CBS news stories are negative. He still only lost by 30 or 40 votes in 3 or 4 different states. Right. And so at this time, Donald Trump was down like 5 or 6 points against both Biden and against Hillary. Right now, he's even. They've always underpolled his strength. So right now, based on past history, Donald Trump is probably ahead in every single one of the so-called 7 swing states. It doesn't matter, as you know, about the national polls. What matters are the swing states. And he appears to me to be ahead in all of them, even after this debate, which I thought was not his best debate. Again, I think most people, I said this before the debate, it doesn't matter what I say, it doesn't matter what conservatives say, what they say on Fox, what they say on Newsmax. It doesn't matter what they say on The View. It matters what the people who've never paid attention before are watching for the first time, swing voters in swing states. And based on what I've seen so far, most of them said Donald Trump is my guy. So
is it baked in at this point? Is there nobody left who's an undecided voter? I mean, they dig up these 10 undecided voters all the time. I mean, is undecided a buzzword for I don't know what the hell's going on in my own country? You know, how could you be undecided at this point, Larry?
Well, there's also a buzzword for them call them low information voters.
Yeah, right.
How can anybody who's got a brain 2 points above plant life not have an opinion one way or the other?
Right.
But there are people obviously that haven't made up their minds yet.
Yeah,
it used to be about 10 or 15%. It's probably down now to maybe 4 or 5%.
Right.
That's how close things are.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about local stuff. I wanted to ask you because this is the end, apparently, of the Gascon era.
Looks like it.
It looks like it, Larry. George Soros. What's that?
Based on the polls I've seen, his dog doesn't sniff him now.
Right. George Soros has turned off the money.
Yeah.
He's not doing any campaigning.
Right.
It looks like Nathan Hawkman is going to walk in with a landslide here.
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. But do we have a new witch? I mean, this guy sitting there with Alex Michelson a couple of weeks ago blurts out that he's endorsing Kamala Harris. And Michelson said, I didn't even ask you, bro.
It's funny you should mention that. Yesterday on my program, I had on Steve Cooley, who, as you know,
we've had him on here too.
Ran against Kamala Harris in 2010, debated her. And I pick up the newspaper and I read an article about Hawkman now saying he's going to support Joe Biden. Cooley was so ticked off. Cooley has withdrawn his endorsement of Hawkman. So I had him on. And I said, what's going on here? I could understand if it was a 51-49 race, but Hawkman is overwhelmingly ahead. What's the upside? And Steve Cooley said, I don't know. I asked him, why are you doing this? He said, I got no coherent answer. He said, I suspect he's going to run for some higher office and feels if he can now appear to be less Republican-ish, maybe he'll be able to realize his higher aspirations. But Steve Cooley said, I don't know, and I don't know. Right. I do know this.
Well, let me interject this possibility for you, Larry. 3 weeks after he did it, and he endorsed Harris, not Biden, by the way, but 3 weeks after he did it, the 200 Bush associates came out endorsing Kamala Harris. Was he just ahead of that curve as a Bushite former member of the Justice Department under Bush? Was he part of that 200 people that were endorsed?
I don't know. And Steve said, Cooley said one other thing, which I think is important. He said he also broke precedent because the office is supposed to be nonpartisan.
Right.
And historically, people in that office have not said anything at all about who they support one way or the other. And so this was not only a shock that Hawkman would embrace Kamala Harris, it was also a shock that he broke protocol in generally staying out of races like this. So
well, again, he ran as a Republican against Bonta, didn't he? He on the ballot, he was a Republican.
Yeah, on the ballot he said it, but I mean it's technically a nonpartisan office.
The DA's office. The
yeah.
DA's right. Yeah. Okay, but when he ran for AG, he right. Okay, and you ran as what? You ran as a Republican?
I ran as the black face of white supremacy.
The black face of white supremacy, which one of the greatest quotes of all time.
Of course, I ran as a Republican. Are you nuts? Of course, I ran. As a
I know. I'm just saying, you as the black face of white supremacy, you've got latitude. You've got latitude.
Yeah. You know, my father was a lifelong Republican. My mother a lifelong Democrat, and you should have been a fly on the wall during their political conversations. Right. My mother hated Nixon with a purple passion. My dad loved Nixon, and during Watergate, he was defending him, and it was hysterical. Remember when the Watergate tapes broke out? My dad said, well, let's see. Ehrlichman and Haldeman are still out. What Nixon ought to do is make some new tapes, take those out, and swap them out and put
That's funny. That's funny.
My dad thought the whole thing was inconsequential.
Right.
Fast forward, most people in America now believe it was inconsequential and that Nixon ought not have resigned. Nowadays, a politician would eat a scandal like that like breakfast. My dad was right about how minor it was. So somebody broke into the to Larry O'Brien's office in the Watergate. Why? Because they wanted to find out what he was doing regarding George McGovern. No evidence, and Nixon ordered it. So fire the guys. I'm sorry, it shouldn't have happened. I'm done. Let's move on. That's what my dad felt, and that's pretty much the way Americans feel about it right now.
I know. I agree. Now let's talk about what's his name, Garvey versus Schiff.
Yeah.
This massive bloodbath of a race, because one of our followers asked me to ask you why you didn't run for Senate against Schiff, and you can answer that. But both questions: what's the deal with this crazy bloodbath of a race, and did you ever think about running for Senate against Schiff?
The reason I didn't run, I answer that question first, is I didn't want to get my butt kicked.
Right.
A Republican has not won statewide in California in 20 years. Meg Whitman ran for governor. She spent $150 million of her own money and still lost by double digits.
Right.
Caruso spent $100 million to run for governor, by far more than any other politician ever spent to run for governor. Outspent Karen Bass by 10 to 1, lost by 9 points. It's almost impossible. The only reason I ran for governor is it was a recall election, and for one shining moment, people were so pissed off at Gavin Newsom because of the way he shut down everything and was laughing at the French Laundry restaurant. And I even felt that was going to be ephemeral. I said, okay, he'll apologize, he'll grovel, and then people will get back to the center. And that's pretty much what happened. So I don't think there was any chance for me to win. Plus, you're talking about at least $150 million to be credible.
Right.
And that's a heavy lift. The reason most people don't run is not just because you lose money if you have a gainful job, as I did, not just because of the nasty media, not just because of how tiring it is, but asking people for money is so unpleasant.
Yes.
Especially asking friends for money and family for money, which is the first person you have to go to.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who often say no. So it's strange relationships. It's just awful.
Yeah.
And Garvey has no money during the primary. I think he had $600,000. Adam Schiff put on ads to tout his candidacy because he wanted to run again because he knew he would kill him. That's exactly what happened. He got the candidate that he wanted. Same thing that Gavin Newsom did when he got John Cox. These guys manipulate something like that because the top finishers go against each other. And what they want is some weak Republican. And Garvey, likable guy, very good ball player for the Dodgers, very good ball player for the Padres. So what? He's not even a real Republican.
Yeah.
And I've seen him speak.
Yeah.
Nice guy. Likable guy, smiles, kind guy. He's still a Republican at the end of the day, and he's not going to win.
Right. Well, it's kind of low. That's a 33-point lead over there the last time I looked.
Yeah, and Schiff has $30 million in the bank, and Garvey has what?
So, I mean, Schiff will be the senator for life.
Yeah.
Unless he decides to do something else. So we're now stuck with Schiff Feinstein in that regard. These positions are lifetime royal appointed positions out here in this one party state. This California model may have been created because of the flooding of illegal aliens into California for 20 years, Larry. And that may be the national model that we're looking at if she wins, of opening up that border again like a spigot and flooding in another 20 million illegal aliens. Whether they eat cats or dogs, I'm not really sure what's on the menu, Larry. But I mean, your father owned a restaurant famously, and you had to work in there, so you know that there's different tastes in LA. I remember when the city council passed a law about Koreans eating dogs in the mid 90s here in LA.
Well, my dad served breakfast and lunch. He didn't serve duck. But you're right about the demographics of California. The reason we don't have a Duke Mason, the reason we don't have a Pete Wilson anymore, is that the electorate has so dramatically changed. Now I think whites are about 30% or so of the population in California. 70% are blacks, Hispanics, and Asians, and they typically vote left. So it's awfully difficult to win. I ran, as you know, in the recall election. There was a recall in 2003. And Arnold Schwarzenegger became the top finisher on the replacement side with what? 49% of the vote. Guess what percentage Elder got? 49% of the vote. Yep. However, big difference. Two things were different. The first is this: in that recall election, Democrats blundered by allowing a big name Democrat to be on the replacement side. That was Cruz Bustamante, who ran against his boss.
Right.
And they were determined to make sure there would be no big name Democrat in my race. Antonio Villaraigosa made some noise about running. And I don't know, I can't say they paid him off in terms of money, but he got some sort of position if he decided not to run, he decided not to run. So I got 49%. Cruz Bustamante got about 31%. The next highest finisher in my race got 9%. So they made sure there was no major big name Democrat. The second thing that happened is the demographics are very different. From 2003 until now, there are 5% more registered Democrats. There are 30% fewer registered Republicans. There are 50% more registered independents, and independents in California, even according to the New York Times, vote Democrat. So the battlefield is far more daunting than it was when Schwarzenegger won. And Schwarzenegger also had an advantage. He was a movie star. A third of people thought he was a liberal. A third thought he was a moderate, and a third thought he was conservative. So you could paint whatever you wanted to paint on him. With me, everybody knows what I am. I'm a pro-life, social, and fiscal conservative.
Also on the side, a white supremacist. Most people don't know that about you, which is a hobby, but it could become.
So I had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. I am what I am. You know?
Right. I think LBJ called that a donkey in a Texas hailstorm. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and you can't get out.
The actual line is sometimes you just have to hunker down like a Texas jackrabbit in a hailstorm.
Right on. Okay, so where do we go from here? This is a mess, California. I urged half intent on getting RFK out of the race months ago that he pull out this quixotic campaign of ideas and run for governor of California. Here he could try out all his experimental things about drug farms and everything else. Shanahan finally must have seen my episodes on this, and she says if he doesn't do it, she's going to do it. And she's got a big personal war chest, and who knows? I thought it'd be a perfect fit for RFK Jr., but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think that Steve Hilton is going to run. He's got name recognition from Fox News. He does have an R at the end of his name, which is going to be a disadvantage.
But should we be ruled by the British, Larry, at this point? Should we be ruled by British?
He's now an American citizen.
Oh, sure. 5 minutes ago. Great.
Yeah. Very likable guy, very charming guy, and he can work a room well. I've seen him. He's got money. I'm not quite sure how much. I know he's independently wealthy. Yeah. So who knows? Yeah. Who knows? But again, what was the line in Chinatown? It's Chinatown, Jake. It's California, Jake, and I don't know how Republicans win. Yeah. The state has got to hit rock bottom. Yeah, I thought. Excuse me, when I ran for governor, we had pretty much done that because of the crime. When I was running, that Motown record mogul living in Hancock Park, somebody broke into his house. Right. He had armed guard on premise, and somebody shot his wife. Yeah. There was a UCLA graduate student who's working at a furniture store, also in Hancock Park. And some homeless guy with a long record comes in and stabs her to death. And so I thought maybe now that the crime was coming to the burbs, maybe they would understand we got a real problem here. But apparently not. And all the homelessness and all the horrible schools, people saw how bad they are because of COVID. Parents were watching for the first time the kind of instruction their kids were getting online. And Black parents said, I don't want to send my kid back to LAUSD. So I thought homelessness, people leaving, cost of living, average price of a home in California, as you know, is twice that of the national average. Why? Because of the marriage between the left and these environmentalists that don't want any kind of construction. So we have a supply-demand problem. And I thought maybe because 1 million people left California in the last 3 years, our budget is a disaster. Okay. $1.5 trillion, depending upon the rate of interest that you get with the money they have in the pension funds, underfunded. And there's no way to get that money. You can't raise taxes to get it. You can't give the retirees a haircut because they won't accept it. So we're in this spiral where the contributions to the unfunded pension liability is becoming the largest budget item. And it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And much of the spending is on automatic pilot. I don't know how you get out of it.
I don't know how you get out of it. Yeah.
I've talked to lawyers about it. A state really can't declare bankruptcy. Right. So I don't know how you get out of it.
Well, if she gets into office, she's just going to fund the debt of the state of California and perpetuate the debt. If Trump gets in, I think he might tighten the screws on the state and cause something to happen here. But
I don't know what. I don't know what can happen.
All right, tell me about Israel, because obviously you're a big supporter of the state of Israel, as are we. How does this thing end? Like, how does this? Where does this go?
Have you seen one of the IDF commanders found some letter that was written by a top Hamas commander, a late top Hamas commander? He was killed after he wrote the letter to the head of Hamas and said, "We're getting our butts kicked. We're down to just X percentage of rockets. We're down to X percentage of men. We're getting harbored here. Help! Help!" And so obviously
can they order rockets on Amazon and have them overnight delivered if they have Prime?
So as far as I'm concerned, if Donald Trump becomes president, he'll give Bibi Netanyahu the green light. He won't have to worry about slowing up shipments, which is what Biden and Harris have done.
Slow walking arms.
Try to quote unquote finish the job, but there's no finishing of the job. This is a hateful ideology. They want Israel destroyed. In his more candid moments, the head of Hamas has said, there's no two-state solution. There is one-state solution, and the state is called Palestine. And he doesn't want to just get rid of Jews out of Israel. He'd like to get rid of Jews all over the world. I'm sorry, that's what we're up against. And they're the little Satan, and we're the big Satan. And sooner or later, we're going to realize we need to take it to Iran. Iran is financing all this stuff, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Biden loosened the sanctions and now enriched their coffers. They weren't completely broke, as Donald Trump likes to say, but they were pretty much broke. They couldn't have financed all this terror, and that's what we're facing right now. So sooner or later, Iran is going to have to be dealt with.
Now, what about the anti-Semitism on campuses? Because I've seen that UCLA is now banning masks, and they're banning encampments of the pro-Hamas factions, or may or may not be going to school there. I mean, how do we deal with Columbia, with Harvard, with Brown, your alma mater? Where does this go, Larry?
Well, the donors have to step up and say, we're not giving you any more money, and some of them have. And also, I can't remember which two schools are. They were big schools. They just now say we're going to follow the University of Chicago protocol, which has been in effect since the 60s. And that is, we don't weigh in on political issues.
How does the University of Chicago pull this off? Which has always been the amazing how they've been able to stay out of this, the University of Chicago.
Well, it goes back to when they had a football team. They used to have a football team, and I can't remember exactly how it unfolded, but the football team began having a lot of power, and they didn't want that, and so they there was some sort of scandal, and they dropped their football team, and so it's just been a very unique place. And they made it. I forget what it's called, but some call the Accords or the Protocols. They announced we are not going to be involved in political issues. For example, when Roe v. Wade got overturned, a number of universities issued statements. Two of them that issued those statements just now came out the other day and said, we're not doing this anymore. We're now going to follow the University of Chicago model. We're staying out of all this stuff. So there has been the pendulum swinging back. It's going to swing back slowly, but it is swinging back.
Well, it's nice to see. Even here in California, I think they're afraid of the backlash from Jewish money in West LA, I gather. And also, a lot of kids who are Jewish go to school, these Ivy League schools, Larry.
And there are a lot of lawsuits. And
there's a lot of lawsuits,
And somebody's going to have to disgorge some money and pay that to these students because they don't feel safe. There's a lot of lawsuits. And I remember, I think it was Columbia, some very, very prestigious feeder school, Jewish feeder school. Not a single Jewish kid applied for Columbia. Not one this year.
Wow.
So it's having lots of effects that they didn't anticipate.
Wow, that's great. That's really great. Well, we'd like to have you come back on, as we get closer.
I'm not doing it. I can't.
No, Larry, come on. This is a great place
to happen.
Come on.
One and done.
I've been watching you with Rob Schmidt every other night coming on that show, and he's killing it, that guy. Him and Greg Kelly are killing it on Newsmax.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, just fantastic shows. I stumbled onto it about a year ago, and I'm hooked.
Yeah, and Rob Schmidt's show is now getting higher ratings than the counterpart over at CNN.
Yeah,
not Fox yet, but higher than CNN, which is a pretty big deal. I love that show.
I love this show. I love both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, and I saw.
Although I got a story by Greg Kelly. I'm in New York. It's a couple months. You'll like this story, Mark. I'm in there. I'm doing a thing on Newsmax. So I'm in the hall. Greg Kelly comes out. We never met in person. He goes, Leo Terrell, how are you?
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
I said, you think Larry Elder is Leo Terrell? I'm taller. I'm better looking. I have better skin. Are you kidding me? Are you? And he's turned beet red. And I just started joking with him, and it was. Wow. I said, I've been accused of looking like Juan Williams.
Oh, I could see that. I could see Juan Williams.
Terrell, that's a first.
That's an insult.
I said, what's it? Two black guys, Larry Elder and Leo Terrell. So you took a 50-50 shot. It's got to be one or the other. Is that what it is?
Right. Well, I asked Louis Barnett if he was related to Dick Barnett. He didn't get the joke. It went over his head. He didn't get the joke.
Baby. Fall back, baby. Dick
Thank
Barnett.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, so this is great. I just wanted to get one interview with you under our belt so we can open the door for further discussions as we go down this crazy highway to Election Day, Larry. I mean, please consider coming back on. We've got a nice audience for you here.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I got a podcast that I do once a week. I pin it to the top of my Twitter file. It's called Larry Elder, We've Got a Country to Save. I do that once a week.
Right on.
And as you pointed out, I'm a syndicated columnist. And I have a radio show. I'm back doing Salem now.
Good.
I came back about a month ago.
Right. What channel in LA are you on? Because I used to watch
AM 870 in LA.
Right. That's what I thought. Right.
Yeah,
I just wanted to.
It's on delay, so it comes on at 7 p.m. until 10 p.m.
Right.
But come January of next year, it'll be on live 3 to 6 Monday through Friday on AM 870 locally.
Ooh, I like that. Bravo. Because
where I was for 20 years when I was at.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One of my favorite episodes is you went into a whole thing about how African Americans don't tip in restaurants.
Right.
And you had Mexican waiters calling into the show live talking about their experiences. One of the great Larry Elder episodes of all time on radio.
And black waiters too.
Yes.
They don't want to. You're a waiter and there's a black table and everybody stands around hoping
looking at each other, right?
Because they don't tip.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, no, we're back. Well, that was weird. That was kind of surreal.
Yeah, well, we were watching, but we weren't watching. At least we weren't sitting there on the side looking at ourselves in the thing.
No, that's ridiculous. It was too long for that.
But hopefully folks enjoyed that. I think
Larry's going to come back. He just had a great time, he said, and he's definitely coming back. It was the first time we had him, so there'll be other times.
Yeah, he's a legend, though. I mean,
no, he's a rock star, bro. He's a rock star. I mean, they're so afraid of him on CNN and MSNBC because they can't debate him. He's a savage debating machine. He can rip anyone apart. I mean, here's Nate the lawyer. Nate the lawyer's afraid of him. I'll pay to see that match. Nate the lawyer versus Larry the Elder. Texas chain match in a cage. No moderators. Just answer the questions that come in from people in super chats, Nate.
Yeah, I love this. So Charlemagne's out here. Charlemagne's out here asking for his black card back after you schooled him on Biden, saying, "If you don't vote for me, you ain't black." Man, you really hit him with the Uno reverse on that one.
Apparently Charlemagne's up in arms about Biden taking the hat. Larry, Eric.
I don't watch him regularly. I'd have to consult with Nate.
I mean, my Charlemagne followers are telling me that that Charlemagne's upset that Biden put on the Trump hat. Now, my take on it, he took the hat as a scalp, as a commemorative scalp. That was my my takeaway from the whole thing. He signed the hat that he had for that guy there. I mean, the funniest thing is a picture with him with the school kids. Because keep in mind, this is dude, almost 85% of them were wearing Trump gear. He stumbled into Trump country and didn't even realize where he was because of 9/11. That happened to be where the plane went down in Pennsylvania. So they showed up, and it seems to be the heart of Trump country, from what I gathered.
That part, yeah. I mean, everything but the cities. I mean, Pennsylvania is very, very Trumpian throughout the country. Or throughout the state, sorry, otherwise, but I don't know. There is kind of that possibility. I do, maybe it's my secret hope, want him to be saying up yours. Yeah, it is kind of an FU. Think about it. Within 12 hours. No, I'm just saying within 12 hours of Trump, remember Trump said to her, he hates your guts. You know that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That was a good line. That was a pretty good line. He could have had a bunch more of those if I was writing for him. Like Mort Sahl wrote for JFK when he was running against Nixon. I mean, it's not unfathomable to have comedy writers. Obama had a bunch of them working for him. I don't know. I mean, maybe Trump wants to do these jokes himself, but
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
there's plenty of one-liners that Trump could have in his pocket to whip out at any time, which he didn't seem to have for this particular debate.
Yeah, and that's why people don't understand. We've seen Trump do it before. We know what Trump is capable of.
Yeah,
and he was not doing that.
Yeah. You know, look, I don't know. Maybe he got older. Maybe he got shot in the head. There's a lot of reasons to justify what happened that night, but to ignore it is not really a smart take on it. And, you know, to say it didn't happen is not really a smart take. Can you put it in the rearview mirror? Hopefully. I don't know. It certainly stifled his momentum, drove his campaign to an abrupt halt. They're celebrating as if they won the World Series, which is not whether they move the independent, uncertain voter needle is yet to be seen, but it certainly didn't help Trump that debate.
I don't think it did. I was surprised about the undecided. That was encouraging because
but these, like Eric, these are tiny little sample, miniature little sample size things that you could go 10 blocks away and get a different readout, you know, from 10 other people. I mean, I don't know if that really matters. I think what matters is what your own eyes saw. You know, whether you like her or not is not really the question, because you're on the other side. You have to be able to look at it objectively and not judgmentally because you don't like the other candidate.
Right. And he is putting good spin on it. Like when he came out and he said to everybody, he's like, I looked angry. Yeah, I am angry. So it is smart to try to take some ownership.
Also saying that the first thing the losing fighter does is call for a rematch. That was a great line. I mean, you can't take that away from him. But in real time, at moments, he looked quite befuddled. But let's go on to some other news. I just want to put a shout out to Trump Force 47, which is the official Trump volunteer force to get your fat asses off the couch and go out in Pennsylvania, go door to door, answer phones. If you can't get there, you got to join Trump Force 47. I'm sorry. That's the least you could do. Did you hear Glenn Beck saying get off your fat ass and do something, Eric?
No,
he was being interviewed by, I think Tucker. And he said that people have to get off their fat asses and help Trump.
Glenn Beck, welcome.
Glenn Beck watching the show.
Come on
welcome, Glenn. Come on by.
Yeah, we have a guest spot for you. Come here.
Come on in. The door's wide open now. I just want to talk about something that this model of Kamala Harris, this political model, may be the future if it's successful. Now, you say, well, you know, they talk about a army fighting the last war that they were involved in. The Republicans may be fighting the last war in terms of the election model changing. And the reason I'm saying that is I'm reading the memoir of another Nixon person, which we'll have an episode on. That's Dwight Chapin. Dwight Chapin was the personal assistant to Richard Nixon. He knows a lot about Richard Nixon. And when he came on board to the Nixon campaign, I think in 1967, they had trouble convincing Nixon that there's a new model involving TV for political campaigning. And they tried very hard to convince him. And finally, he started to come around. This may be the new model, what we're witnessing here. We just may be too stupid to see it. The fact that you hide the candidate, you avoid the press, you don't talk about the issues, you don't give a press conference, you switch candidates whenever you want, you come in at the 11th hour. The entire thing may be a model for the future. I'm just putting that out there, folks.
Maybe a model, because I
feel
it
like might be the model if it wins.
No, if it wins. No, I'm saying, but it looks like there's competing models, because RFK, Vivek, we're doing the whole hitting every podcast out there. Different media. So we're looking at different models trying to move in the future.
Again,
so
I'm not talking about the usage of media, which is what happened with the Nixon campaign, where they were reluctant to use TV. What I'm talking about is an overall change in style of campaigning, where this type of campaign that we're seeing is an actual model. This is not willy-nilly. This is something they came up with, whether the media is cooperating or not cooperating. They're really not in charge of the model. This entire thing of pulling somebody out of the air at the last minute, avoiding media, avoiding introspection, avoiding questions with the press, having people bust in for phony rallies. This could be the model, that it's not going to be grassroots anymore. I think they learned from the Bernie Sanders debacle from them. It was a debacle, not to allow this grassroots thing to ever happen again. It's too willy-nilly. When you're addicted to power like they are, I believe that they can't afford, in their minds, to have a grassroots type campaign ever again.
Well,
they're going to see
it. They tried it with Biden and it worked.
Well, I'll give you another example. Campaigns used to have the conventions be real. And you say, well, they've never been real. Yes, they were. They were real for literally up until about 40 years ago. And now you couldn't imagine them being real, could you? You couldn't. And I think that's where these presidential campaigns are going, like the conventions have gone. And we now accept that the conventions are coronations. But in the old days, they were not. They were multiple ballots, multiple votes. It was a fight to the death. And that's long gone. I'll just leave it at that and move on.
Okay.
Can we talk about Cuomo testifying on Capitol Hill?
We can. I was going to share one thing, though, about somebody who is definitely going to vote for Trump and has finally come completely around.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. A lot of people are asking me if they live in a red state or a blue state, should they still be voting for me? What about swing states? The answer is easy. No. No matter what state you live in, you should be voting for Donald Trump. And let me tell you why. That's the only way that we can get me and everything I stand for into Washington, D.C. and fulfill the mission that motivated my campaign. Right now, free speech is under withering and relentless.
I just had to share that. Finally. Finally.
But again, and I have to just let it go. You know, it's just my personal thing. To wait until 57 days before the election to do this is really egregious. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to let it go. This could have been done a year ago. He could have been out campaigning a year ago for him on the stump. Believe me, he could have gotten through to Donald Trump a year ago, had this meeting, had this sit down, come up with the same conclusion as they did with 57 days left, battling in court to get off ballots, on ballots, completely confusing people left and right. It was all unnecessary, all ego driven. And I got to let it go because he's now on the right side of history. But nevertheless, it sticks in my craw. I'll just
somebody else finally came around.
Oh, yeah, this is a good
We've been
one.
asking about that.
See, him I don't mind. Him I don't mind because the future of the earth is not resting upon this guy's shoulders.
True, but this is one of those big markers, and we've been over and over. It's like, when is Alan Dershowitz finally going to? Now, who's next?
We have
Bill
talked
Maher,
about it, right?
or who are we going to put out there as the next marker of somebody?
Well, that's a good marker. I mean, this guy has been so maligned, so taken apart socially by the Democratic left, by his own family. It's been a shanda. To put it, to use a Yiddish phrase. So good for him. Will he endorse? Will he vote? He said he's going to wait till November 1st to reveal it. And I think he will announce, and I think he will come out, and I think he will endorse and say he's voting for Donald Trump. My prediction.
I hope so. And it's sad news. James Earl Jones died last week. Or this week.
Well, James Earl Jones, of course, I mean, obviously in a lot of movies and a lot of things, but really the one that I loved the most, which made me weep, was his soliloquy from the W.P. Kinsella novel, later to become Field of Dreams. It was called Shoeless Joe, the original book for Shoeless Joe Jackson, played by Ray Liotta, who told me he never took more heat in his life batting righty as Shoeless Joe Jackson. They never told him that Shoeless Joe was a lefty. And I said, Ray, you got to let it go. But he couldn't, because the fans just like certain people in the chat who talked to us about Dorothy Kilgallen. Shoeless Joe was his Dorothy Kilgallen. And anyway, the soliloquy about baseball always makes me weep. And I put it on Twitter the other day. It's just really more poignant now than it's ever been. I urge people to watch Field of Dreams. There was a time when Field of Dreams came out where I went to see it every day at the Lincoln Cinema in New York City, small theater complex. And in that complex, in that theater every day, during the day, were about 15 to 20 men spread out around this darkened room, weeping quietly in that theater, because it's a movie about fathers. And that's what people don't realize about Field of Dreams. And if you grew up without a father, like I did, and apparently these other guys who are in the dark, it is one of the most poignant baseball movies ever made. And that's why it's so emotional for a lot of men. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, I appreciated this send off, showing everyone who was passed, and Mark Handel's spring also passing, sadly.
That's funny.
All right. So you want to talk about Cuomo? I don't have an article for that. So what happened?
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, like I said, they had Cuomo's aides had testified under oath about sending all the people to their death in the nursing homes in New York. Finally, the former governor of New York was called to testify and was roasted on the Hill, but mostly by Republican elected officials. I don't know where this is going. He was under oath. I think there's going to be more to this. This was one of the first big, media confrontations of a powerful person who was involved in COVID. He contradicted himself numerous times, and it's well worth. It was on C-SPAN this week, so if anybody gets a chance to see the testimony of Cuomo as governor of New York regarding COVID and sending these people to their nursing home deaths, I strongly recommend this if you have any dogs in that hunt.
Okay, I do have a white pill that broke right before we started.
Okay.
Pennsylvania Supreme Court rules that mail-in ballots that are undated and misdated will not be counted in the 2024 election.
Okay. That's a plus. That's a plus. I'm telling you, everything about this election, if there's any way you can get to Pennsylvania, it would be helpful. Again, I just can't keep mentioning Pennsylvania. Larry mentioned it. I'm mentioning it. She can't win the election the way it's lined up without Pennsylvania. If I'm talking about putting a goal line defense, if you know what that is, a goal line stand, look, maybe Bart Starr can sneak in 17 below zero, Lambeau Field, Green Bay, Wisconsin, through a pulling guard situation with Jerry Kramer and go into the end zone. But putting up as a end zone defense, a goal line D is what we need in Pennsylvania at this time. And I mean, just get there, volunteer, do what you can, go to Philadelphia, get a room, stay with relatives. I mean, let's do this. Get off your fat asses, get off your couch. Just don't sit there, putting stuff in comment section. You're not going to save your country by putting snarky comments in a comment section. I'm sorry, that's not the way this country is going to be saved. You're going to have to physically do something. I know that really is harsh for a lot of people, but you're going to have to get off your fat ass and do something, okay? Please, I mean, if you can get to Philadelphia, if you can hook up with Trump Force 47, they'll point you in the right direction. They know where you have to go to help out. Go to Motel 6, get an Airbnb, get a bunch of people together, do something, you fat bastards. This is it. There's like 45, 50 days left before the election.
All right, now this one surprised me. Did you see this with Blumenthal?
Yeah. I mean, look, Blumenthal's a skirtless cat, but play the cut. Yeah,
I know, but that's why.
Yeah.
I think the American people are going to be shocked, astonished, and appalled by what we will report to them about the failures of the Secret Service in this assassination attempt of the former president.
It's not you, Eric. It's not you. Yeah, it was the original one was inaudible, but what he said was the American people are going to be shocked by this bipartisan report on the efforts of the Secret Service regarding the guarding of Trump. And I think he's putting that out as releasing it to save themselves the heartache of what's going to come from that report. How harsh
it's got to be bad. It's got to be bad for him to come out, because it's like, whoa, that's the last guy I expected to be coming out now.
Me too.
Speaking of somebody you never hear from at all, and also came out same subject.
Oh, Melania, yeah.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw she's got a memoir coming out, by the way, which I'm excited to read. Speaks about 5 or 6 different languages, a really brilliant East European woman. But I don't know what Don Lemon was doing with that TikTok video that he put out of him rolling his eyes as she was. I don't know if you saw this. It was absolutely insane last night. Don Lemon put out a TikTok video of himself on the screen mocking and rolling his eyes while she says those exact same words. People are just scratching their heads as to
that's a feature of TikTok called a duet, but that is kind of tactical.
It was a duet. He was rolling his eyes, making insane faces while she was doing that obviously heartfelt soliloquy. He took it down, Don Lemon, after it went viral, of him being roasted again by the American people. I've never seen someone so out of touch with real people than this cat, Don Lemon. It's astounding. I mean, a lot of them on the left are out of touch, but nobody is more out of touch than Don Lemon, in my humble opinion.
I don't know. He's got competition. He's got sets.
Right. I'm saying he may have competition, but I'm going to vote for Don Lemon at this point.
Oh, okay, fair enough. He's in the lead this week. Okay, but this is a marathon, Mark. It is not a short race.
Well, I mean, his wonderful soliloquies and interviews of people on the boardwalk in Atlantic City are going into the Trump Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they're fantastic. But I especially hear, how often have you seen Melania say anything?
Never.
Exactly. So when she speaks, it's like, okay, pay attention. There's something going on here, because she doesn't go out of her way. As you pointed out, she speaks 5-6 languages, but doesn't spend the excess time talking all the time like everybody else.
Right. Well, she is promoting the book, so I got to be honest about that. So she's got to put herself out there a little bit for the book.
Which is fantastic. And speaking of putting themselves out there, apparently we have a fan of the Second Amendment that we never knew of.
This is bullshit, of course. Every president has to either show them with their gun. You know the rules, Eric. And going back to John Kerry, going back to Jimmy Carter, whoever it is, every single presidential candidate has to A, endorse the Second Amendment, which is a given, B, be shown holding or shooting a weapon. She is not going to go that far. So this is just a bullshit story about her owning a gun, being a great shot, and blah, blah, blah. None of that is true, but you have to have it if you're going to be taken seriously as an American presidential candidate. So this was her stock answer about that mandatory subject matter, in my humble opinion.
I'm going to bring up another story that I know you haven't seen, but it's one of my favorite subjects. You know, I love AI, and you know I love scams.
AI scams. Okay, we got the two together.
It's a perfect combination. Okay,
it's a perfect combo for you.
This guy here, it's kind of brilliant. Man arrested after earning millions from AI music tracks. So check this out. Okay. This guy created AI, like an AI bands or multiple AI bands, put out music tracks on like Spotify or whatever the hell it is, right? Then he programmed bots to listen to those tracks.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. To get followers or likes.
To plays. If the track's played millions of times, he's going to get the money in. So he focused on both.
It's genius. That's why they're so afraid of AI, because any brilliant psycho, he's probably 13 years old in his underwear sitting in Spartacus, New Jersey.
I have no, he's 52 in North Carolina, damn it.
Well, that's what he says. That's what he says, but he's got a doppelganger in Newark.
I love it. He published thousands of tracks per week on all the different music services and then provided the audience. I mean, think about it. He covered the whole picture. Here's the band. Here's the audience.
Kind of brilliant.
Oh, it is brilliant.
Well, he could do the same thing with movies then. I mean, get the box office receipts from his AI movies.
This is true, but here's somebody who does not use AI for his movies, as far as I know, but is after Variety. Francis Ford Coppola.
This is going to backfire. This is from a independent film that Coppola did, and it was a couple of years ago. Was in the Venice Film Festival. He financed it himself. It's a fascinating film. I forget. I think Val Kilmer is in it. Yeah. Val Kilmer's in it, a bunch of other people. It's just a really fascinating avant-garde film that Coppola put out. And there's some outtakes of him. There's a couple of sexualized scenes in it. And somebody released the outtakes. It might have been Variety, I think, of him playing around with the girls who were extras in the movie. They said that he groped them and this and that. And it's clearly there's nothing on the video that really indicates that. So they try to Me Too Coppola. And once you're trying to Me Too Francis Ford Coppola, you're going to have to take on Sophia, who's beloved by women, film fans and filmmakers. And Coppola is now, they were attempting to make him into the new Harvey Weinstein. He's turned around and he's suing Variety and the writer for $15 million.
As he should.
As he should. And this is really the first mega pushback by a Hollywood insider against this trash.
Well, and it also harmed his film too, which probably pissed him off even more. I think I've read some stories on it. Like he's been trying to make that film for 30 years.
Yeah, he paid for it out of pocket. Yeah.
And paying for it out of pocket is like $150 million out of pocket, not like a few $1 million. He saved up, forever, went broke, and then reinvested. It's the story of making the film's probably as interesting as the film itself.
Yeah, well, having Sophia as his daughter is not going to help Variety, that's for sure. I'll leave it at that. This will be settled. This will be settled out of court.
Well, let's shift to your old home state, and a lot going on here. Adams tapping a new commish.
Okay, this is a big story because Al Gonzalez hipped us to this, saying that the FBI has wiretapped City Hall. And they've also wiretapped police headquarters, if I understand what Al was saying. So Caban, who is a corrupt police commissioner, was forced out by Adams, but he was going to go down anyway, and he will be arrested. The Adams administration, that is Adams himself now, since everyone around him has had their phones seized, including Adams, brought in the FBI. The FBI, this guy, Tom Donlin, who is FBI as long as it goes, is now running the New York City Police Department. In other words, the FBI is now in charge of, now this is the takeaway, and this is the truth. The FBI that you all love is now running the nation's largest police force. Let me repeat that so people at home can understand it. The FBI is now running NYPD. And has that as its private army, because the FBI really doesn't have manpower in terms of firepower compared to, I'd say, 10,000 New York City police. That's who they're in charge of now because of this situation.
Well, the scope of it, by the way, there's 10,000 FBI agents, so they literally double their force.
Right, but most of them.
No, that's nationally. No, I'm saying
that's nationally
overall. Yeah. So 10,000 more in just one location. That's. Quite forceful. All right, let's go through some super chats here. Pamela Clifton said, "Happy Friday, guys! Happy Friday! It's Friday the 13th, by the way, which I've never had a problem with superstition-wise
until today.
I don't know. I'm here with you, so it's a great day, right? Yeah. Dr. Evil, no tax and overtime. Yes, that I thought was a very interesting tax break idea, and very smart of Trump, because it not only affects directly the working man, but it also increases productivity overall, which helps stimulate the economy. So I thought that was very, very slick. Jason Willis said Jason is happy Friday the 13th. Thank you.
Oh, Jason. Anyone named Jason?
I guess.
Anyone named Jason.
The other Jason.
Yeah.
Carl Burkhalter, thousands of Haitian Black Creole fled to Louisiana because the revolutionaries hated them as much as they did whites.
Okay. Well, they got there somewhere in Louisiana. How they got there, I assume they came from Haiti.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was, was it Maria? I forgot her name, but a lot. I mean, New Orleans is such a cool place. It's a crazy mix. And when you're down there, you notice all the furniture. Like nothing matches in the houses. It's just a really fascinating hodgepodge.
Well, the Voodoo Queen, I think you were referring to, is Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau, when you go to, I think it's Louis Armstrong Cemetery number 1. I forget the name of it, but there's a orange and white cat that is supposed to be Marie Laveau. And her tomb is there, all above ground, of course, because of the water level of New Orleans. So when I was in New Orleans, I was brought, this story was told to me, and I was sent to St. Louis Cemetery number 1. I forgot what it was. But I went to the cemetery to her tomb, and I said, it's a crock of shit. This cat story, and all of a sudden I hear meow, meow, and I look over, and there's the cat that's supposedly Marie Laveau looking at me, standing on another tombstone, like at eye level. I went, yeah, let's get out of here, Mo. And I got the freak out of that graveyard really quickly.
The cat's eyes are following you.
Yeah.
Heather, whatever. Great. Thanks. Thank you. Pew Pew. We'll gift membership next time. Love the show. Well, thank you, Pew Pew. And you don't always have to. We do appreciate
Pew
it.
was picked up by Interpol, and he's in a EU prison at this point, somewhere in Norway.
Oh, speaking of EU prison, Netherlands, I think it was, just filed an emergency request to not enforce. What was it? It was a state of emergency due to immigration problems, and they're trying to file to not have the reciprocal allowing people from the EU.
Too late now. Too late. Tell them what they've won, Bob. You've won 30,000 new immigrants from the Middle East, Netherlands. You will have to assimilate them and protect your women. Good luck, Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I think it was the Netherlands. It was them or Denmark. It's one of those, and I get them mixed up. But I'm like, ooh, things are
this
falling
situation. Apart. I'm sorry. Go on. I don't know. Go on.
Go on.
No, I was just going to go on a long thing, but let's get this first.
You should put links to Larry's shows in. He sounds like a cool dude. I do have a link to his YouTube show that he mentioned inside the description here.
Yeah, just go in the description, Dave. I mean, we can't put a link to everything Larry Elder's ever done. It would be 60 pages long. But that brief bio I read at the beginning, his books are in the bio, and some of his credits are in the bio as well. Yeah, that's how I ended up at the Pasadena Republican Club, because of his campaign manager watches the show and then brought me in to speak at this pro-Trump Republican club out here in Pasadena.
Which is cool. We never know who's watching the show.
You never know. I mean, it's really bizarre.
All right. Speaking of which, let's go back to New York for a second, because this is a fun little clip.
Oh, this is great. This is great. No one cares that they're in there. They're standing like two deer in the headlights. Nobody's greeting them. Nobody gives a shit. They don't know where to go. And people are just eating. They're just going, there he is. And then someone else comes in. This is moments later, by the way. I mean, is that a slap in the face or what? You're talking about the sitting president of the United States and a woman running for president, and nobody even acknowledges their existence in that hangar.
Nope. Wow. And
wow,
which one is that? Ladder 15 or?
No, I think this was out in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. That's what this was 9/11, right? I believe, and the hangar near the incident.
Okay. Wow. Anyway, still love seeing that.
But I mean, that photo of all of them together, I don't know if you saw the photo at Ground Zero with Bloomberg in between Trump and Biden. This photo is unbelievable. Later on, Bloomberg goes over and gets Harris to acknowledge Trump, and they shake hands across Biden in front of him, while he stares out into oblivion like the dead zombie that he is. This is Bloomberg doing this thing. Very nice of Bloomberg to do this. He gets Trump and her to shake hands. He never turns his head, Biden, to even acknowledge Trump. She shakes his hand, and both of them are very cordial doing this at Ground Zero in New York, where both Al Gonzalez and Trump showed up separately, but were there like 9/12, according to, well, we know that Trump was there because he has talked about it over the years.
Well, I'm wondering.
Al Gonzalez was working. He had to be there.
Right. I'm wondering, and I'm curious your speculation. I think that they learned for the 13 at Arlington that they didn't show up for. They damn sure made sure to show up for this event.
9/11, you have to. That's a rule. That's a rule. I think there was not a 9/11 that has happened in 23 years where this has not occurred. So I don't know about the thing with that's kind of up in the air. That's a tough call, but this one's not a tough call. You got to be there. You just have to be there. How they handled it is a different story. I mean, the fact that Biden just stared out into oblivion is crazy. I mean, he could have shook Trump's hand. It wouldn't have killed him. She did it. He didn't even look at him. He didn't look at anybody. He's just staring out into oblivion.
Well,
saying,
without a minder, what does he do? He's probably.
I don't know.
I don't even know if he's there half the time.
But Bloomberg to control the situation, really, and in back of him was Giuliani, by the way, just to give him some credit for being there too.
Awesome. Now, let me see. I go a couple more here. Russ just Android said, little known fact: Dorothy Kilgallen never wore shoes and had a cat named Joe.
You know what's funny? Not funny, but there's a family that talked about a Haitian immigrant at 5:30 in the morning. Their mother, who was in her 50s or 60s, went to take out the garbage, and he hit her with his car at like 70 miles an hour right at the curb at 5:30 in the morning. And it knocked her up in the air out of her shoes and socks, killing her. And both prosecutors decided not to press charges on this insurance-less, license-less, illegal Haitian alien in Springfield, Ohio. And the family is not only bereaved, but infuriated by their own town again buckling to these illegal immigrants. It's shocking. It really is shocking. And they went to interview the guy, and he just refused to talk to the local press.
That's just crazy. That is crazy. All right. Well, let's switch to insane families a little bit. California, of course. What is going on with Brolin's kid?
I have no idea why they can't help him. Here he is getting lunch, reaching over. This is
He looks rough.
The son of James Brolin, the brother of Josh Brolin, the stepson of Barbara Streisand. But he is living in a one-room motel while his family lives in a 22-bedroom mansion up in Ojai, and Josh Brolin lives in like a 6-bedroom mansion in Montecito. This is how the left looks and deals with people who are the closest to them. We were having this conversation this morning in my place here, how they support abstract people that they don't know, but they can't support the ones that they do know who are closest to them. This seems to be a common thread with wealthy elites and wealthy celebrities. They're able to give money to abstract causes to, feed the homeless that they don't know. But when it comes closer to home, they seem to go completely blind. Why he can't take his assistant, Josh Brolin, and give his assistant $5,000 a month just to deal with his brother is insane. I'm not talking about giving him $1 million, but giving his assistant and saying, look, this is one of your job descriptions. Just make sure this guy's all right. Here's $5,000 a month. I'm budgeting for this. They'd prefer to have this. And I guarantee you, this will be taken care of now because they've been shamed into doing this. But this happens throughout Hollywood and throughout the elite celebrity world. They all have a family member like this.
Now, could this be a drug issue? Or?
It could be a drug issue, but he's the fattest drug addict I've ever seen. No, there's a mental health issue. It's not a drug issue. It's a mental health issue. And they're probably ashamed to have him as a Brolin. So they figure they'd ignore it and donate to, Save the Whales. But now this whale has been shown, and they have to save this whale from embarrassing them, is essentially it. This, I predict to you, will be taken care of.
Well, for some reason, when you're talking about rich people, it made me think of Obama and his own brother,
who again is voting for Trump, by the way. And don't forget, what's his name, Waltz's brother, who says
Waltz's family. It's like
family.
All the siblings, and it's like the reverse of Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah,
except Bobby might still have a couple Kennedys that are there. I don't know if Waltz has any.
No, I don't think he has any. There's no Waltzes left.
All right, well, while we're still in the families here, we got Elijah Blue.
Yeah, this was going to happen no matter what. Elijah Blue was correct about this, and Cher was, in her way. I mean, she is correct too. It's just the conservatorship was never going to work. There was no court that was going to honor this. I mean, she loves Elijah. Elijah just wants her money. How do I know that? Because he told me 7 million freaking times. Other than that, I'm sure he doesn't. But God bless Elijah. He's been in and out of so many rehabs. I hope he's sober right now, and I hope he gets some long-term sobriety. She's worth, I want to say, $360 million the last time I looked. It's probably more now. And she used to have Elijah on a $5,000 a month, similar to this other story, but he used to be on a $5,000 a month allowance, but with all his credit cards paid. So anything he ran up on the cards was taken care of. It was $5,000 above that. And I think she cut him off. And there was money from Greg Allman that she had no control over because Greg left him money that kicked in, and he was using the Greg money to go on these drug sprees. So she was trying to get the court to put her under the control of her. And the court disagreed because he showed up with his wife and was looking great. So, I mean, good luck with that. But I think she finally pulled the plug on this court case, which was inevitable.
Which is good. All right. Well, speaking of families, this one I have a bad feeling about, but Trump plans to launch his son's crypto business on Monday.
I don't know what this is about. I don't even have an opinion on this. This is so crazy.
Eric and Don Jr. apparently are launching their own crypto coin of some type.
All right.
Crypto platform. I'm a little on crypto. It's some is all right, some is not, but there's a lot of sketchy folks hanging around the crypto world.
Well, let me give you this one. There's more crime in Oakland than there was in Chicago during the Roaring '20s right now, and what their MO is to steal cars and floor them in reverse into businesses and jump out and rob the businesses. So these 3 Lexuses pull up at 5 a.m. at some gas station in Oakland, and they put them in reverse. They smash through the front of the gas station, and there's an employee in there, and they had a company handgun. So she opens fire on the 3 Lexuses that scatter. And what did the Lexuses want? They had, and I never heard of this before, maybe you have a crypto ATM was inside the gas station with a regular ATM plus cigarettes. This was their goal. And people go, well, what about the Lexuses? Well, they were stolen. They didn't care about them. They keep using these cars, and people think it's crazy. It continues to happen in California. They steal a car and they use it as a battering ram every single time.
Okay, I've got to tell you, I'm very confused at the moment, though, because I understand ATM and I understand cash. And I even understand that they have ATMs with gold bars.
Yes.
I believe in Qatar.
Yes.
But crypto's a digital
right, but people are putting money into. They have reverse ATMs at I went to.
Anaheim. Okay, so you could buy crypto with cash.
They have reverse ATMs, by the way, at Anaheim at the Angel Stadium, because the entire stadium is digital. So you have to put cash into the reverse ATM to get a digital card, a cash card, and then you could buy all the crap at the stadium. I think that was the case with the crypto thing.
Okay, I was just curious.
I don't know.
I wonder if some of the weed money is going that way too.
whatever it is, they knew that that ATM was filled with cash, and they were driving those cars into the gas station to put it in the car, to take the 2 ATMs into the 3 Lexuses. One would be a getaway Lexus, and the other 2 would take the 2 ATMs, from what the police thought. But they ran into a employee who wasn't going to surrender. There was crypto ATM so easily.
Yeah,
not being charged, by the way, not being charged. They are saying that the threat to her was immense.
Wow, this crazy ass story. All right, well, speaking of crazy stories, have you seen this one? This is a Navy story, but some Navy chiefs, like, high level non-commissioned officers, bought a Starlink, and brought it on a naval vessel.
For what purpose?
To watch Telemundo.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is crazy.
And check email and everything else.
That's insane.
This bitch.
This is the captain of the ship?
No, she's the one who bought the
brought the Starlink. Insane? Oh my
God.
God.
She's insane, because literally it's potentially revealing an entire vessel in the Navy, because she wants to watch us. But
she needed to watch her soap operas, or Telemundo soap operas.
Now, okay.
She needed her stories.
Here's a question for you. You look at Hillary Clinton and that server, what happened with her? Oh, nothing. That's right. You have this one dude on a submarine who just took a selfie, and he got locked up because he took a selfie in front of a background that could be deemed top secret.
Yeah.
This person brought on literally a Trojan horse, if you will, for China to track one of our naval vessels out there in the sea. So guess what happened to her?
What?
She got demoted to a.
What is she, a petty officer first class there? What is that?
No, she was a master chief petty officer, and she got
petty officer. Yeah, my father was a petty officer.
She got knocked down to a petty officer.
Right.
No, chief petty officer. Yeah. So this is it. She just lost a little bit of rank. Moving on. No problem here.
Look, she's the face of the new Navy. I mean, that's until something happens. Now, speaking of war, which is what I wanted to talk about, because I was watching Alex Jones earlier today, the situation has escalated unbeknownst to the fact that American media is not covering it. The situation is now that they are going to use, and I mean NATO is going to use these missiles, these American missiles, to fire into Russia. And Putin has had a number of press conferences saying he will retaliate quickly against Poland, against Paris, and against London. And apparently the only one who's seen this is Alex Jones, even though it's been broadcast all over the world. Putin said if these missiles come into Russia, he will retaliate against Western targets, and he will officially declare war against NATO. That being said, he's predicting next weekend, Alex, that these missiles will begin flying into Russia. Blinken has been with Zelensky this week. And the Polish, the people in Poland, the official, non-official government people have denounced this. Poland is fighting in the field with Ukraine, and the Russians have vowed to strike Western targets if they're hit with Western missiles, which is just common sense. They're not going to sit there allowing these missiles to be launched into Russia, which is what Zelensky says he's going to do, and which is what he was told to do by Blinken this week. So Putin has put out a million different statements saying that this is what's going on, because he knows we're never going to hear them. So keep your mind open, because I believe there's going to be a wag the dog up until election day. And if they win the election, they will begin. If they lose the election, they will begin to escalate this war immediately against Putin and against Russia, and just do everything they can between
Trump into it.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to rope this around his neck by launching missiles. The missiles of October will be the missiles of November, I'm predicting. And I believe if he loses, he'll be incarcerated on November 26th. I know people think this is over. It's far from over. The Supreme Court of New York State, which is actually the Court of Appeals in name, but it's really the Supreme Court, has ruled that the gag order must remain upon Trump throughout this period up until November 26th. I believe he will be jailed November 26th. This is not going to go away, win or lose. I believe that He will be in jail while they launch these missiles and begin this war with Russia. This will become an official war. I think Putin will declare war on NATO, and this will be a legally binding situation. So this is not going away, and they are now going to wag the shit out of this dog to make this come to fruition before Election Day, and then launch the missiles, launch the war itself after Election Day.
Well, hopefully Poland and some of the other ones are able to step in and say, no.
Well, they're attempting that, but unfortunately, Polish soldiers are fighting with Ukrainians in Ukraine, so they've already stepped into the battlefield.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really escalating, Eric, quickly.
No,
It's really escalating.
While we're talking about dark and wars, why not go the other way? BBC accused of breaching its editorial guidelines 1,553 times in the Israeli-Hamas.
Yeah, they brought in an outside independent agency that looks at media, and the amount of lies by the BBC that now claims that they're going to investigate themselves, interestingly enough, is breathtaking. The amount of sheer propaganda put out by the BBC. They taught us how to do this. The BBC are really the masters of propaganda. And I know a lot of people think it's somewhere else, but it's really there in England. And they are extremely good at this, and as is the United Nations. But as a media outlet, when they talk about banning RT, in reality, you should be talking about banning the BBC.
Yeah, well, probably. All right, let me see. Big John's Americana. Vote early, often. Early for Trump. Often get 10 or more friends to vote for Trump early or by Election Day, and we'll know who the winner is by 10 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, that's easy. Thanks, John. Like that's going to happen. I think you might have to do something else. I'm sorry, but that's not going to cut it anymore, bro.
All right. White Strat 64 said, if illegals can vote, how can Australians help?
Well,
you should just border.
No, just request mail-in ballots, and you live in Sydney, and say there's 10,000 people who live in your town, and just overseas them to the United States from Sydney, Australia.
And just make sure you say that you love Biden and Kamala while you're out.
Right, like draw pictures of them on the envelope, and just like with
exactly.
a winking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That way, must have stickers. Put stickers on there of Biden and Harris on the outside of the envelope, and say, "Please open quickly. I live in Pennsylvania."
There you go. Thank you, Thomas Wooden, for being a new member. Justin Wright, join me on the big rig on Friday the 13th. People behind the wheel on Friday the 13th get wild.
What is this guy? A truck driver, or
I guess big rig? I'm assuming. Ginny's getting inky with it. Lots of people think they should just let government take care of loved ones if it's inconvenient. When I helped my sister, everyone thought I should ditch her, not too dissimilar in their attitude towards abortion.
Yeah, I mean, Trump got caught up in that thing, but he was correct about the 9 states that have late-term abortion. He was correct, including Minnesota. He wasn't very eloquent about explaining it. When these Trumpian truncated phrases, it was difficult to even follow what he was saying there, Eric. It got so fucking crazy.
And it was Virginia, not West Virginia.
I know. I mean, there were so many mistakes. I mean, look, the guy's not Superman. I mean, he is nearly 80 years of age, and he's on the stump every single day. But that was messy.
And Megyn Kelly pointed out too, but I agree. He was like in a foxhole taking fire from 3 directions. So
but he knew that was coming in. As Rich Barris and I have agreed, he never should have done the debate. You can't just go in there and then it happens to you and you say, I can't believe it happened to me. I mean, you can't have it both ways. There was no upside for him to do that. No upside. He simply could have said, as Rich pointed out on his show this week, all he had to say was, I debated the nominee who received 14 million votes. I'm not debating someone else who somehow wrestled the nomination from him. I already debated the official candidate. I'm not going to debate everyone that they pick every other week and let it be done from that. Instead, he says, I could take on everything. I'm a big beast. And he got his ass kicked.
Yeah. Sadly. I don't even remember if you sent me this one or I had this one. This is in New York. A con artist turned doctor is a practicing New Jersey gynecologist, despite being outed as a catfish.
This is crazy, Eric. Maybe you can explain this. I didn't understand this one.
She's a catfish. I mean, it just.
Well, wait a second. Is that a man or a woman? First of all,
I guess it's a female. It's Emily. Does look female. Probably is female.
Okay. Is she a phony gynecologist?
I don't know if she's a phony gynecologist, but she's a phony date, apparently.
She's a phony date. She was catfished on a date. What is the gynecology part?
So she's the catfish. She's the one doing the catfishing. So
right, but what does the gynecology have to do with it?
Well, they're saying, hey, this person who scammed all these people, she convinced several people that she was an attractive 6 foot tall Colombian, MIT educated,
right,
analyst living on the Upper West Side.
Okay.
And
but she really is a gynecologist on the side, or?
Well, let me see.
Okay.
She's an economic analyst is who she played, named Harvey.
Okay.
So she tricked a lot of women into falling in love with her, and they're saying, hey, wait a minute. There's this crazy bitch who played this character, Ethan, and these 3 women got caught up in that whole snare. There's a whole book about it, but I guess they tracked it down. They're like, oh, by the way, here she is, and she's working as a gynecologist in the city.
Wow.
I guess the question is, why is she working? I don't know. It's just weird
story.
Now, not as weird as this, though.
What do you got?
This one writes itself, and it's going, what? Okay, so we have a jogger left bloodied, dazed, and crying after getting mauled by a gang of, go ahead and fill in the word. What do you expect? Gang of what?
Venezuelan gang members.
Okay, not human.
Not human?
Right. Mauled by a gang of, but not humans. It's a particular animal. You would think like, oh, pit bulls or something, right?
Yeah, definitely pit bulls.
Yeah, okay. No. Otters.
Otters? How could she be bloodied by otters? Crazy otters. My God.
I did not know.
Is that them? Is that the otters?
Apparently, this is the manic otters who are leaving the scene of their crime. I've never heard
of shit fucking otters.
I have never heard
of. No,
of
they've been getting a pass for too long, these sons of bitch otters. You know what? They're vicious, they're nasty, and they got to be shot on sight. I say open season on otters from here on out. Holy crap. These are like coyotes. Otters my ass.
You've seen
somebody's got to
like
do something. In your life? It's open season on otters, my friends. Open season. Death to the otters. How can they do that to a woman?
Dude, I have no idea. I didn't even know they would do that to a woman. That's just insane.
Yeah. Holy crap. Let me tell you something. There's always a lot of videos, and they have these African safaris where you drive through with your car, and there's always some Asian woman who gets out and is mauled by a tiger. This looks like one of those stories where she got out in jungle safari and the otters shredded her, and they tell you repeatedly, don't get out of your car. Someone always gets out of their car and is dragged into the woods, mostly by a Bengal tiger or a lion or something. But maybe she fucked with the otters too much and she got what was coming to her.
Maybe, but
yeah.
I don't know.
I saw a guy. I was in Yellowstone one time, and we were up on a hill with a bunch of caribou that was laying on the ground. It was beautiful. But down below was a road, and there was a guy in a VW bug, big black guy, and he's out of the bug, he's out of the beetle, and he is up in a bison's face with his video camera, one of those big ones, because it was in the early mid-90s, and he's filming the thing really close, and it turns and snorts and starts walking towards him, and he runs back into his car, the VW Beetle, and the bison starts lifting it up. It starts, and he's yelling out the window, "Save me! Help me!" And people just cracking up, and the bison's lifting up the Beetle with him in it. Completely underestimated.
I think it flipped it and rolled it over and just.
Well, I don't know. We were there. I don't know if anybody videotaped it. It was in the early 90s when this happened, but holy crap. Yeah, I mean, what a weird story of people underestimating the domestic ability of an animal or the ability of an animal to read the situation. Everything becomes a Disney movie for these people, and they think they can go up and just pet them.
Yeah, ask Siegfried and Roy. How'd that work out?
Okay, I finished Chimp Crazy, by the way, this week, and I highly recommend Chimp Crazy. If you haven't seen a 4-part series, but also a movie called Oddity, which is a new horror movie. It's out in the theaters right now. It's done by the same people, same guy. Oh, they're British or Irish, who did Caveat a couple of years ago. But Oddity, well worth it. If you could find that movie, I think you might be able to find it streaming this weekend.
All right. Well, here, help me understand what is going on. What is the status? Because it's an important subject of plastic bags in California.
Let me tell you something. If I was able to explain this, I could explain nuclear fusion, because I have no idea where we are in this story. I don't even think they know where they are in this story. We went from plastic bags to paper bags to plastic bags to thicker plastic bags. Nothing's happened. It's gotten worse. Every single move they've made has made the situation worse. And now we're going back to, I think, the thinner plastic bags, but I'm not sure.
So the genius move of thinner, shittier plastic bags, right? So that way you have to get 2 or 3 of them at a time to hold anything. And
that's what blew up their first attempt. Going to paper. First, there was a period of time, years, where it was paper or plastic. That's where we started. The paper people, the paper people went against it, saying the trees. Then they went full plastic. The plastic people pushed back, saying we can't have these triple plastic bag scenarios. So they went to the thicker plastic bag. Well, the thicker plastic bag was so good that people kept it and used it for other things and never recycled it. So now they're going back to the thinner plastic bag. So that would end up being recycled because nobody would want it. Again, just talk about a nanny state. This nanny is drunk and out of her mind and banging homeless people. She doesn't even know what she wants, this nanny.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I could be completely wrong because, again, it's hard to follow where I am with this story. When I go to the supermarket, I know they were charging you 10 cents for the thicker, nicer plastic bag and urging people to bring their own bags. So people were bringing their own bags for a while into the store, whatever the bag is, a mesh hippie bag, a backpack, but then they were loading up stolen merchandise into the backpack. Everything they've attempted to do has turned into a debacle. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, that's your state for you.
That's the state where, and Larry Elder, my neighbor in Hollywood, who's apparently lived here a little bit longer than I have. I think Larry's been in this city for about 30 some odd years, according to Larry.
Yeah, he's got 10 years on you, I think.
He's got 10 years on me. I mean, well, he's from LA. So, he is the sage of South Central, which is a great moniker to have for a black dude in LA.
Well, yeah, it's definitely better than the blackface of white supremacy,
which famously came out from the LA Times from a Latina writer who called him that. Excuse me?
Probably a Latinx
writer who called him that when he was running against Newsom during the recall. That was nice of her. That's really nice.
Classy.
To say. Yeah, classy.
Yeah, I'm sure he appreciates that.
Yeah.
Jenny's going to ink you with it. Do either of you plan to watch Walsh's new movie?
When it comes online, I'm not going to go to a theater and see it. It sounds like a one-note joke, but the trailers are great. I don't know how many times you can get away with that joke in a film format. But I don't know. I mean, it could be a Borat-style situation where he pulls it off the whole movie. I don't want to spend $20 to find out, but I wish him well. I don't know what the problem is with Matt Walsh. I think the guy has done a lot of good with his films and with his confrontations and with his testimony on against trans barbarism on the Hill. I don't have a beef with the guy. I think the guy is doing a hell of a lot of good work.
But raw milk, man.
Yeah, that's not my ballywick, and that's not one thing I'm concerned about right now on the planet. I'm concerned about World War III, which Alex says is going to start in a couple of weeks, and maybe a lot of these plans are going to go out the window. Put it this way: if you've got vacation time in your job, I'd say take it now because it may not be around in a little while.
All right. Well, let's see. Grandpapa said, "Thanks for doing Lizzie Borden, my distant cousin. I told you there was more to the story. She was framed."
You told me that personally? Thanks, Grandpa. I don't know how you told me that, but thanks for the $5. And you're lucky you weren't her closer cousin, because you might have ended up with a, which I think was the iron was the weapon, not an actual axe. I think it was the iron itself, the triangular iron. But that's my take on it. I also think she was a lesbian.
Okay, yeah. Big Bill 767. My son worked 50 miles from the Field of Dreams. Our family visited a week after the 25th anniversary of the film. It was great.
When did it come out? 87 or something, or 84? I forget what year it was.
89, I guess.
89. Yeah.
Let me see. Cats and dogs' lives matter.
Yeah.
Okay, agree.
Or as Bill Murray said, cats and dogs living together.
Excitius. Others here in Oklahoma wearing leather jackets, smoking Lucky Strikes, and dragging chains, yelling "Yippee-yi, yippee-yi-o-ki-yay, mother effers." Leon Russell.
What does that have to do with Leon Russell? Is that like a lyric line from Leon Russell? I
guess. I'm trying to.
Well, I know Leon was from Tulsa, but that's a weird quote. I mean, maybe it's true. I don't know.
It's definitely a weird one.
It must be on Asylum 2 or Asylum 3, which never came out.
Mark will not leave California. He is the California resistance.
No, Larry and I are going to fight to the death. I mean, how many more people? Look, we're in the underground, people. We're here. There were people in Berlin after the Berlin Wall was built. There were war correspondents. This is Walter Cronkite. You know, I mean, there's a lot of war correspondents, and now Larry and I are two of them.
There you go. Let's see. Okay, I saw this story. Anybody who has a flight anytime soon, trigger warning. No. The Alaska Airlines pilot had no idea the Boeing plane had a giant hole until we landed.
Did you see what this pilot looked like? I mean, did you? I just don't want. I don't want to cast aspersions on this woman. She was so concerned about her eyebrows and hair and makeup and everything else. For the love of God, I think they should open the cockpit door, have a look at your pilot, and give you the opportunity to abort when you're coming on the plane, because I'm not flying with this crazy bitch. If you don't know that door is ajar and you take off with a 727 or 747, it's on you. It's on you. I mean, look, my father was a jet engine mechanic at Kennedy for 35 years, and it's rare that the door is broken. Pilots usually check all those things, and she didn't bother.
Well, one thing to note, she was not the captain.
What was she, the co-captain?
First officer.
Oh,
so there was somebody in charge of her.
Yeah.
And that might explain, because our friend George, I sent it to him and he thought it was interesting. He said the NTSB must have cleared it because she's talking.
Right.
But he found it very interesting the captain wasn't talking.
Very good point, George. Very good point. Yeah, the captain, look, it is what it is. I don't want to get into it with this DEI situation with captains now. I mean, this is the last place you would ever want DEI in your society, is in the cockpit.
Look at that, dude.
Think about that. Dude, I don't want to look at it. Just freaking me out looking at it.
Jesus, that's so
I don't even want to see it. I don't want to see it. I mean, it's your worst nightmare, and there's nothing you can do about it. Look, if an engine goes out, they can still fly with one engine. The wheel goes out, you could still land on your belly. But this is human error. This is just human error, and it's avoidable.
Yeah, they said something like there were some bolts missing from it.
Okay.
So there could be other factors in there too.
Yeah.
The whole thing just terrifies me. Like, apparently one of the passengers' shirt was just sucked out.
Dude, everything on your little table. Woo! Goodbye. Goodbye, laptop. Are you kidding me?
Did you pay for your phone insurance? I hope.
I got two words for you. Goldfinger. Remember what happened with Goldfinger, my friend?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I expect you to die, Mr. Bond. Whole thing, that fat bastard got sucked right out that little window.
That's true. Dustin Russell, that's why you keep your seatbelt on.
I
do keep it on.
I keep my seatbelt. I learned that from my dad as a kid. He said, never, ever take off that seatbelt unless you go in the bathroom and get back as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah.
He also told me don't land at LaGuardia in the winter, which I still swear never to do.
Probably a wise idea.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Otherwise, you end up in Jamaica Bay.
All right. Fletcher Boy said, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. Hunter S. Thompson.
Interesting. Good line.
That is. Well, it's Hunter S.
It's Hunter S. Hey, what is this thing with Hunter and what's his face?
Oh, Tucker and Hunter?
Yeah. What is the deal with Hunter and Tucker? They were running buddies or drinking buddies?
Apparently they were I don't know if they're frat brothers or they went to I think they went to private school together.
Oh,
remember Tucker went to private school. Yeah. I think Hunter was one of his buddies, and I did not know that they had this relationship apparently all the way through 2015.
What?
Yeah. Do you remember the Ashley Madison scandal?
Yes, I do. Not completely, but it was a madam who had a black book.
No. It's a website. Ashley Madison was about cheating on spouses, and they got hacked. Right, but all the names got released. It wasn't a madam. It was a website. That,
but it was an escort website.
What was a cheating website? So it's people who cheat with
website. What's that?
Where people go on there and they say it was designed for people to sign up and cheat with each other. It wasn't specifically
That's weird. I never heard of that before. Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
Hunter Biden apparently was one of the people that was revealed in it.
Sign up for this cheating, dude. No wonder I never heard of it. That's insane.
Well, it was literally a dating website for married people.
So
that's why it was such a big deal.
Yeah.
The whole principle behind the site was that it was for married people to screw around.
Dude, what about that old couple out in San Bernardino who lived in a nudist farm and were killed by their neighbor and buried underneath his house a couple weeks ago in California? I don't know if that one you might have missed.
We had that. We never really got to that.
Okay, well they caught him. It's the next door neighbor who hated them, also part of the nudist colony, who killed them and buried them, and they were like 80 years old in a nudist colony.
You see,
that's the craziest story.
Why is it that the people in the nudist colony, you always get excited? You're like, oh, it's a nudist colony, and then you see footage of it, you're like,
see, here's how they defend themselves. They say it's a nudist colony, not a hot ass nudist colony. It just says nudist colony. They push back on that, Eric. They just want to be freaking naked. They didn't sign up for hot, naked, free lunch nudist colony. It's just a naked place where people hang out. So think about it. There's no limit to how ugly or fat or disgusting or old. They're just freaking nude.
I understand that in principle, but it's disappointing.
It's a very disappointing. All I can say is imagine the next time you go to Walmart, all 400 people in the store are naked, and you can't unsee what you see.
That's my point. Some things are not meant to be, okay?
I think when they first started in hippie days, when they first started in 1965 in Berkeley or wherever they started, it was a hot smoking nudist colony in Malibu, was a. But now it's just gone off the rails after 50 years.
Yeah, it's the same
people. It might be
the
same people who were 23 back then.
Okay, I vote for, how about the nudist colony in the dark?
Okay.
I would.
How about age and look restrictions where you got to, send in a photo and try to get in there? Not that it's a plus 55 age community, but I think so. You got to look certainly appropriate before you take your clothes off. I don't think that's too much to ask.
I think so.
Or maybe the other members don't care. Maybe the others don't care, and they're just as, they don't care. So everybody's together.
All right. Well, you know what?
I can't even go camping now because the whole region's on fire. I had to cancel my camping trip this coming Sunday, because everything's on fire down there in Chabuco Canyon. Thank you. I just want to talk about these two fires. there's two major fires going on, the line fire and the bridge fire. The bridge fire is where I was going, which is Trabuco Canyon. It's in Orange County. Forget about that. That's out. Okay. There were Caltrans, California road crews, picking up brush alongside the road and putting it into the wood chipper and lecturing the homeowners about how they carelessly left their brush out as part of the program. The fire started because of the sparks from their own machine that wood chipped the wood, causing billions of dollars in damage so far, and a fire that's out of control caused by the California employees who were picking up the brush on the side of the road. Okay. The second fire was started by arsonists. So we have two, this has nothing to do with climate change. These two fires that are now sweeping California, enveloping it, were both man-made, one by arsonists who've been arrested, and the second one by California employees who sparked a fire, lecturing homeowners about not starting a fire. You can't make this up. You really can't make this up.
With fires, I mean, the only part I was expecting I didn't hear was that one of them was a fire person. Yeah, but because typically, sadly, most, or not most, I'm just going to say many,
well, they
many
could start by
lightning.
The lightning.
No, I know, but I'm arson fires. Many arson fires are actually started by, sadly, firefighters.
Oh, but these weren't firefighters. These were just arson people separate. The other people were road crew, and they weren't firefighters either. They were the road crew that California employs to clean up the brush. They started the second one.
Fair enough. Well,
and I'm not going camping this year because of that. So I'm very bitter.
It sounds that way.
Yeah.
But you know what does not make us bitter? That's hanging out at Locals. We're going to move over there, talk to the folks there, see what's going on. Encourage everybody to follow us there. Unstructured.locals.com. It's free to follow. Or if you want to support us, you do get the entire Oswald. The fifth one should be underway soon.
What?
It should be underway soon, not done soon. Otto and other
underway.
People who are listening fanatically. Underway soon.
Underway.
I believe the dialogue's been done, but the Foley takes an extremely long time.
JT Leroy. That's the name I was trying to remember. JT Leroy. And we'll discuss it over on Locals. Go on, Eric.
All right, JT Leroy. We're head over to Locals. There's a link in the description. You can always get it there. And
I hope you enjoy the Larry Elder episode, you fat bastards. Took a lot of work to get Larry on the show.
By the way, speaking of Locals, one of the comments in Locals that I just happened to see when we were talking about the nudist camps and the problems there was great. More fat asses.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
We're headed over there.
JT.